ज्ञानां तिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितमेन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सगनरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपदान् सहगणललिता श्रीशाखान्वितांश्च। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. So let's first read the translation of the song that we sung now, the song of separation by Srila Narottam Das Thakur. The translation of the first words: He who brought the treasure of divine love and who was filled with compassion and mercy, where has such a personality as Advaitacharya gone? Where are my Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatana? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where are my Raghunatha Bhatta and Gopala Bhatta? And where is Krishnadas Kaviraja? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against the rock and enter into the fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all of these devotees in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottama Das simply weeps. This is the song generally we sing during the appearance of a great acharya, spiritual master, or the disappearance of a great personality, Vaishnava Thakur. Obviously, in this song we don't see the word Īśvara Purī, whose disappearance day is today, the most auspicious day for us that we could remember such a great personality as Īśvara Purī. Though the name Īśvara Purī is not mentioned in this song, particularly the song is sung so that the mood is there, the mood of separation of a Vaishnava. How Narottam Das Thakur, he is simply weeping that he is unable to obtain such association of the great devotees of the Lord, along with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Gauranga Mahaprabhu. So today is Sri Īśvara Puri's disappearance day. I couldn't find the appearance day of Īśvara Puri anywhere. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, I couldn't find any reference. But at least I was recently preparing the Gaurabdha calendar for our temple. So there I could only see the disappearance day of Sri Īśvara Puri. And obviously there should be some appearance day also. We all know Īśvara Puri is the spiritual master of the Supreme Personality of Godhead who appeared in this world some 500 years before as a devotee, who is none other than this Lord Gauranga, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Īśvara Puri is the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is mostly known to us, and then mostly we meditate upon Īśvara Puri, seeing the aspect of his spiritual master, seeing him as the spiritual master of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Actually, when we speak about a spiritual master, it is very clear that spiritual master means he was a disciple of his spiritual master. One cannot become a spiritual master without being a disciple of his spiritual master. In fact, the whole Shastra is directing us towards going to a guru. Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita that Tadviti pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya patekshanti te jnanam jnanas tattvadarshinaha. You should approach a tattvadarshi. Tadgurum eva bigachet. that Shastra is giving a very strong affirmative sentence that one must, not even it says that one should. There's a difference between must and should. Should means this affirmative word, it just conveys the meaning that there is a strong recommendation that you should do this. But then Shastra uses the word gachet. This is as per Sanskrit, which I am not much aware of the Sanskrit, but then as we heard from Srila Prabhupada, the word gachet is translated as must. Must means there is not a recommendation, or this is not a strong recommendation by the Shastra, but then this is a compulsory thing that one has to approach the spiritual master. And a spiritual master, how he becomes a spiritual master? By hearing from his spiritual master. So spiritual master is always a disciple of his spiritual master. We know Srila Prabhupada, we always see him as a wonderful, great personality who gave us these valuable instructions in the form of his transcendental books like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. We see him as a great personality who was always guiding us, a master. But we know that Srila Prabhupada, he also eternally has his divine spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So we are coming in such glorious parampara of great, great personalities. All are lions giving birth to lions. Srila Prabhupada, such a Simha Guru, he is Acharya Keshari, and his Guru, he is also a lion Guru. And then whole parampara, we see that it's just parampara of lions, all about preaching so strongly. So these spiritual masters, they all have their own spiritual master, and Krishna is ultimately the spiritual master of everybody. We see here that, but that great spiritual master, the Supreme Lord Krishna, who appeared as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he accepted spiritual master. He is teaching us by example that everybody must accept a spiritual master. Krishna himself is saying in Bhagavad Gita, Yad Yad Achrasi Shteshtas Tat Tat Evetaro Janaha Saya Pramanam Kurute Lokas Tat Anuvartate. That whatever a great personality does, the common people follow. And then, who can be a more great personality than the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself? So when that great, the greatest of all great personalities, the Supreme Lord, when he comes, then he has to set the standard so that the common people will follow. So that Supreme Lord Krishna, when he appeared as a devotee in the form of Lord Gauranga, he accepted the wonderful personality called Īśvara Purī as his spiritual master. So let us hear something about Īśvara Purī from our great spiritual master Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, he writes about Shri Īśvara Purī in his work Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, chapter 9, text 11. I will read it. Shri Īśvara Purī Rupe Ankura Pushta Haila Apane Chaitanya Mali Skanda Upajila. So this is chapter 9 of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It speaks about the, I think, the desire tree of devotional service. This is how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself is the tree of devotional service, and that tree, who is the trunk? In fact, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself is the trunk, and of course the two big trunks, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya Prabhu, then the branches, sub-branches, like that it keeps on expanding. So the whole tree is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela chapter 9. So in that chapter 9, text 11 speaks about Īśvara Purī. So Srila Prabhupada, he gives a small description of Shri Īśvara Purī by quoting his own spiritual master Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So I read the translation. The seed of devotional service next fructified in the form of Shri Īśvara Purī, and then the gardener himself, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He became the main trunk of the tree of devotional service. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhashya, Shri Īśvara Purī was a resident of Kumarhatta, where there is now a rail. Okay. No, this is within the quotation. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur writes in his Anubhashya, within the quotation, Sri Īśvara Purī was a resident of Kumarahatta, where there is now a railroad station known as Kamarhatta. Nearby there is another station named Halisahara, which belongs to the Eastern Railway. This railway runs from the eastern section of Calcutta. End quote. Īśvara Purī appeared in a Brahmana family and was the most beloved disciple of Srila Madhavendra Puri. In the last portion of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antilila, text chapter 8, text 28 to 31, it is stated, Īśvara Puri Gosani Kare Sripada Sevana Swahaste Karena Mala Mutradi Marjana Nirantara Krishna Nama Karaya Smarana Krishna Nama Krishna Leela Shunaya Anukshana Tushtahana Puri Tandre Kaila Alingana Varadila Krishne Tomar Hauka Premadan Se Haite Īśvara Puri Premera Sagar. Translation. At the last stage of his life, Sri Madhavendra Puri became an invalid and was completely unable to move. And Īśvara Puri was so completely engaged himself in his service that he personally cleaned up his stool and urine, always chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and reminding Sri Madhavendra Puri about the pastimes of Lord Krishna in the last stage of his life. Īśvara Puri gave the best service among his disciples. Thus Madhavendra Puri, being very pleased with him, blessed him, saying, My dear boy, I can only pray to Krishna that he will be pleased with you. Thus Īśvara Puri, by the grace of his spiritual master, Sri Madhavendra Puri, became a great devotee in the ocean of love of Godhead. Translation ends. Srila Vishnu Chakra Thakur states in his Guru Ashtaka prayer, Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasado, Yasya prasadan nagati kutopi. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one is blessed by the mercy of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. It is by the mercy of the spiritual master that one becomes perfect, as vividly exemplified here. A Vaishnava is always protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But if he appears to be an invalid, this gives a chance to his disciples to serve him. Īśvara Puri pleased his spiritual master by service. And by the blessings of his spiritual master, he became such a great personality that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted him as his spiritual master. Srila Īśvara Puri was the spiritual master of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But before initiating Lord Chaitanya, he went to Navadvipa and lived for a few months in the house of Gopinatha Acharya. At that time, Lord Chaitanya became acquainted with him, and it is understood that he served Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by reciting his book Krishna Leela Amrita. This is explained in Sri Chaitanya Bhagavata Adi Khanda, chapter 11. To teach others by example how to be a faithful disciple of one spiritual master, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, visited the birthplace of Īśvara Puri at Kumarahatta and collected some earth from his birth site. This he kept very carefully, and he used to eat a small portion of it daily. This is stated in the Chaitanya Bhagavata Adi Khanda, chapter 17. It has now become customary for devotees, following the example of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to go there and collect some earth from that place. This is some description of Sri Īśvara Puri. Mostly the description of Īśvara Puri, Sri Īśvara Puri we can find in Chaitanya Bhagavat. And Srila Prabhupada in this purport also he is referring to Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, where some more descriptions of the association of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with his spiritual master Sri Chaitanya, Sri Īśvara Puri is there. A few other anecdotes are there. So I'll just try to share with you whatever anecdotes I have heard about Sri Īśvara Puri. Sri Īśvara Puri, we know he appeared as the spiritual master of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came in this world to deliver the fallen conditioned souls. Whenever the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears in this world, he comes down along with his associates in different forms. So when Krishna appeared as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, many of his associates, they took different forms. Just like Yashodamata, Devaki, they took the form of Sachidevi. Then how Vasudeva or Nanda Maharaj, they just took the form of Jagannath Mishra. Like that, all the great personalities, the associates of Krishna, they had their own role to play in the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We see that when Krishna appears, some come before Krishna, so they become the elder personalities who become respectful, who become a respectful personality for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just as how Krishna, though he is Supreme Personality of Godhead, he allowed his devotees, Devaki was there to come before, and then Krishna is so respectfully seeing them as the father and mother, though he is the Supreme Father of all, Pitamaha Jagato Mata Data Prapitamaha. So just like that, similarly we see how Īśvara Purī, Sri Madhendra Purī, Sri Advaita Acharya, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Haridas Thakur, they all appeared before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So they all are very worshipable personalities for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he appeared simultaneously with his other devotees, just like Mukunda Datta and Swarup Damodar, and they are all almost in equals with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna's associates, they come later. There are some associates who come after the Lord comes. So we see that Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Gopala Bhatta Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, then Jiva Goswami. So they all come after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And also we see that the whole parampara of devotees, Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, the Narottam Das Thakur, whose song we sang now, and then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Gaura Das Babaji Maharaj, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, they are all coming after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance. But they are all eternal associates of Krishna. They are all appearing at different times before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or simultaneously with him or after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They are all appearing for the mission of the Supreme Lord to deliver the conditioned soul from this material existence. So Īśvara Purī, he appeared before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then he was so devoted to Krishna, and he was so devoted to his spiritual master Srila Madhendra Purī, and by this act of sincerely serving his spiritual master Srila Madhendra Purī, he could win the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself was so eager to accept the lotus feet of Sri Īśvara Purī as his spiritual master. So this we read in this particular purport that Srila Prabhupada is saying, how Īśvara Purī so wonderfully pleased Srila Madhendra Purī, and then he got the blessings of Sri Madhendra Purī, and by this very act he was able to attract Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as his disciple. So this is very important in spiritual life. We know that satisfying, pleasing the spiritual master is the goal of the disciple. When the spiritual master is satisfied, then everything is perfect. When the spiritual master is not satisfied, when the spiritual master is dissatisfied with us, then superficially, whatever activity that the disciple seems to be perfect, definitely it is going to be a disaster in his life. Superficially, one may be a very successful disciple, having so much of successful preaching, successful name, fame, but still, if the spiritual master is not pleased with this activity, then this is going to be a miserable position for the disciple. In fact, the existence of the conditioned soul is to always please his, not just conditioned soul, for every Jivatma. The case is that he has to please Guru and Gauranga, Guru and Krishna. This is the existential position. We know Jivera Surup Hoy Krishna Nitya Das, we are always servants of Krishna. But then that servant of Krishna is strongly established by becoming a servant of Krishna. That's why we see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is desiring to be a servant of the person who is the Lord of the Gopis, Shri Gopinath. So the goal of spiritual life is to please the spiritual master. So Īśvara Purī was so wonderful in that act that he was completely satisfying his spiritual master Srila Madhendra Purī. This is very important. So this one has to keep as their agenda in their eternal life. This is the main agenda. In fact, this is what we are living for. That's why we see that Srila Vishnu Chakra Thakur is saying that Ekeha Kurunandana. My life is simply to take the instructions of my spiritual master as life and soul. This is not just one life, but for eternity, accepting the instructions of the Guru and following them is the life and soul of the disciple. So Īśvara Purī was so excellent in his service to his spiritual master, and spiritual master Srila Madhendra Puri was very satisfied with him. And if you see the life of Īśvara Puri, before he accepted Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as his disciple, he already had the darshan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his early ages when he was a student of logic, when he was a student in his early life. Here we see that Srila Prabhupada, he is mentioning about how Īśvara Puri, he came to Navadip and he was staying in the house of Sri Gopinath Acharya, and that time Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in his school, he was studying, and then there was also meeting of Īśvara Puri and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The meeting of Īśvara Puri and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is sweetly explained in Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. There it is mentioned that when Īśvara Puri came to Navadip, he came in a disguise. He did not want to show who he is, what his personality is. Who his personality means, he doesn't want to show his position as a disciple of Sri Madhendra Puri, because Madhavendra Puri is a person who is so famous. We know that everybody is searching for name fame. All conditioned souls or is searching for some mundane name fame. But then for a pure devotee of the Lord, they don't have to go and search for any name and fame, but the name and fame searches for the pure devotee. That we see in the life of Srila Madhendra Puri, how he attracted the public with his pure devotion to Krishna, and then name fame was always following him. Even when he came to Sri Jagannath Puri, everybody was searching who is that Sri Madhavendra Puri, that the Lord himself was stealing the Shira and then deciding to give it to him. So the name fame was always following Sri Madhendra Puri. So by the very name Madhendra Puri, Īśvara Puri is having his own name fame. So he thought that let me come in disguise. So he came in disguise. He did not reveal his personality to anybody. He just simply came, and then he wanted to take darshan of Sri Advaita Acharya. Advaita Acharya is a very elevated personality. And for our information, we should know that Īśvara Puri, he had two principal disciples by the name Kāśyavishvara Pandit and Govinda Das, and both were allowed or both were ordered to engage as servants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This comes in the later age after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was initiated by Īśvara Puri. And and for our information, the other thing is that Madhendra Puri, he had two principal disciples. One is Sri Advaita Acharya and then the other is Īśvara Puri. So these are the two principal disciples of Madhendra Puri. And Advaita Acharya, the first principal disciple, he is already there in Navadip. Then the other principal disciple is Īśvara Puri. And Īśvara Puri, he doesn't want to expose that he is a disciple of Madhendra Puri. So he was in disguise. But he wanted to see Sri Advaita Acharya. He knew that Advaita Acharya is the incarnation of the Lord, or he is the supreme personality of Godhead. So he came in disguise. But he just went, Īśvara Puri went to the place where Sri Advaita Acharya is engaged in worshipping Krishna. Then Advaita Acharya, when he was having a discussion with Mukundatta, who was just nearby with him, that I am seeing some great effulgence in the nearby place. Because when Īśvara Puri appeared, they could see that this is a very great personality, some divine personage has appeared to our place. So Advaita Acharya he went to inquire about that personality, that who are you? May I know who you are? I am seeing that your appearance seems to be a Vaishnava sannyasi. So please let us know who your divine personality is. Parishara Puri, he said that I am just a Shudra, very low born person. I am not of any importance. This much he said, and then he didn't speak anything further. But Mukundatta, he could see that no, this is a very great personality. Let me try to reveal that personality. So he started to make a nice bhajan glorifying Krishna. Immediately when he heard the kirtan of Krishna, then Īśvara Puri, he became so ecstatic that he just fell to the ground, and the place where he fell, that earth completely became wet because of the tears, because of the perspiration coming from his body. Then immediately Shadvedacharya could see that this is no ordinary personality. Then it was understood that you should be having some connection with Madhendra Puri. They told Īśvara Puri that without any connection with Madhendra Puri, such ecstatic emotions, that changes in the body will never come. So you please let us reveal your identity. Then it was revealed to them that he is none other than Sri Īśvara Puri. So then Īśvara Puri, while he was staying in Navadip, he one day got a darshan of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was that time Nimai Pandit. So when he saw that a very divine young boy was coming on the road, immediately he could see that this is no ordinary personality, he should be a very divine person. So Īśvara Puri, he approached that young boy. Immediately seeing Īśvara Puri, young boy, the Nimai Pandit, who is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, immediately offered his obeisances. Then Īśvara Puri asked him, may I know who are you? Then immediately the friends of Nimai Pandit, they said that he is that Nimai Pandit. Then hearing the name Nimai, the Lord was so pleased. Īśvara Puri was so pleased. Then Nimai Pandit, taking advantage of Īśvara Puri's appearance, he spoke in a very pleasing demeanor that, O great Lord, we are very happy to see you, and it will be a great honor for us if you just be our guest and then accept lunch in our house. Seeing such a hearing such pleasing words from Nimai Pandit, Īśvara Puri immediately agreed for the request, and then he went to the house of Nimai Pandit. Then there he saw Sachimata. Sachimata was cooking so many wonderful items for the deities, and the deities were offered all wonderful items. And then Nimai Pandit took all the offerings from the altar and then offered to Īśvara Puri. So in that way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his young age, he could please Īśvara Puri. Regularly, Īśvara Puri was having lunch, prasadam in the house of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is the early pastimes of Īśvara Puri, how he was having his association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then later, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he started his this Kirtana pastimes. So it happened that Īśvara Puri, he left Navadip, and then he was having his residence at Gaya at some point of time when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came there. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came to Gaya for the purpose of offering pinda to his forefather. So he did that pinda offering to his, because that time Sri Jagannath Mishra left this world. Then as father has left, it is the custom that that one goes to Gaya or any holy place and offer pinda in the name of the forefather. So Chaitanya, and particularly Gaya is known for offering pinda. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Gaya and offered pinda to his forefather. That time he was able to get the darshan of Sri Īśvara Puri. Then he was so pleased having the darshan of Īśvara Puri that he was requesting initiation from Īśvara Puri. In fact, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he told Īśvara Purī that I came to Gaya for the purpose of offering Pinda to my forefathers, but after coming here, I have seen your divine personality. Just by seeing you, I'll be able to deliver millions and millions of forefathers. In that way, he spoke very pleasingly, and Īśvara Purī was very much captivated by the nectarian words of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In fact, Sri Īśvara Purī, he said that, what to speak of giving initiation, I am ready to even give my life for you. In that way, he gave initiation to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took initiation from Īśvara Purī, his life completely changed. We know that there was also a biggest turning point in the life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that he began the Sankirtana movement after he took initiation from Īśvara Purī. So in fact, the Yuga Dharma was established by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu after this incident. We know this is the purpose he came for, but that thing actually started after getting initiation from Sri Īśvara Purī. So these are the few pastimes that we hear about Sri Īśvara Purī. And particularly I want to speak of one particular thing which in this purport which I read, that Srila Prabhupada was speaking about how the goal of a disciple is to please the spiritual master. As I said, that we see Īśvara Purī as the spiritual master of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but we should also see how he is the disciple of Srila Madhendra Purī. In fact, he got Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as his dear disciple by the way of pleasing his spiritual master Srila Madhendra Purī. So pleasing the Guru is very important in spiritual life. That we can learn in the life of Sri Īśvara Purī, how he pleased his spiritual master. This is very important because everybody is a disciple. Everybody is a disciple. Everybody, without being a disciple, then there is no existence at all. So pleasing the spiritual master is the goal of life for the disciple. Srila Prabhupada, he quotes here, Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado, Yasya prasadan nagati kutopi. Without pleasing the spiritual master, we cannot please Krishna. If our goal is to please Krishna, then we should make sure that we are pleasing our spiritual master. And when our spiritual master is pleased, it is confirmed that Krishna is pleased with us. So that we see how Īśvara Purī was pleasing his spiritual master. In fact, the whole parampara is all about pleasing the spiritual master. Here also, we want to please our spiritual master Srila Prabhupada. Pleasing spiritual master, pleasing the Guru means following the instructions. Directly following the instructions. When the disciple follows the instructions of the spiritual master, then the Guru is pleased with him. When the instructions of the Guru is not followed, then the Guru is displeased with the disciple. Then there is no advancement. Particularly with respect to few points which I was recently having a discussion with one of the devotees when I was preaching about Srimad Bhagavatam, why this is more important. In fact, there is a direct instruction by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and also Srila Prabhupada, many times he also quoted this particular verse referring to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and it is a very clear instruction by Srila Prabhupada that distributing his books is a very, very important activity. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he says, Yare dekho thare kaho Krishna upadesh, amarangaya guru haya tara e desh. So this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's straightforward instruction that whomever you meet, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is speaking to that Kurma Brahmana, so he is saying that whomever you meet, you speak about Krishna. Krishna upadesh. Krishna upadesh means, Srila Prabhupada says that there are two Krishna upadesh, one is Bhagavad Gita, the other is Srimad Bhagavatam. So both are Krishna upadesh. Bharata bhumite haila janmaya janma sartaka karikara paropakar means that speaking, that Krishna Katha is two. One is Bhagavad Gita, that is also Krishna Katha. The second is Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, both are in the same platform. Both are actually in the platform of the Bhagavatam only. In fact, we see that Krishna himself is saying in Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma chame divyam yam yo vetti tatpataha. Krishna says that one who hears about my birth and my activities, then when he leaves this world, knowing that my birth and my activities are transcendental, then he attains me. And we see that in Bhagavad Gita, there is no activity of birth of Krishna and there is no activity of the various pastimes of Krishna. It is only mentioned that one who knows my transcendental birth and transcendental activities, after leaving this body, he attains me. So Krishna himself is giving a hint to the persons who is reading Bhagavad Gita that one has to study Bhagavatam, because Bhagavatam is the book which speaks about the Janma and which speaks about the Karma of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when somebody hears about the Janma of Krishna and also the Karma of Krishna, then he ends his repeated birth and death. That Tyaktva Punarjanma, that he will stop his further birth and he will stop his further karma. One ends all his sinful karmic activities by hearing about Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam. So when I was preaching to this person that this is very important that we should distribute Srimad Bhagavatam and Srila Prabhupada's books. Particularly I was stressing that we should go ahead with distributing Srimad Bhagavatam. So this person, he had a doubt in his mind, maybe some contaminations of hearing from others, that why should we give Srimad Bhagavatam, let us proceed, or let us gradually take this personality to whom we are preaching, to Srila Prabhupada's books, but now let us give some other books. In fact, there are so many other books also. So this person was particularly speaking about this one book which he's a very famous preacher, maybe he's a YouTuber, and he has also written some books, something about energizing our subtle activities, something like that. So he said that these books make people attract to us, and when they are attracted to us, then when they are having so much faith in us, then we can gradually give Srila Prabhupada's book, Why Should We Now Hurry? So he was speaking some sort of bridge preaching. Then I was seeing that, I was observing that how Srila Prabhupada, he was completely engaged in this strong preaching and direct preaching, straightforward preaching. And recently I was hearing Srila Prabhupada's Srimad Bhagavatam lectures from the first canto. Incidentally, it was the 5th chapter. And 5th chapter, we know this is Narada's instructions to Vedavyas. There it is it's a very clear indication by Narada that Vedavyas was engaged in some sort of bridge preaching, and how Narada was heavily chastising him. In fact, we see that preaching means strong preaching. Preaching means we have to spell out words like fools, rascals, dumb, crazy, cat dog civilization. This is how preaching works. We see that Srila Prabhupada, he was preaching in using such words. We see how Srila Prabhupada's lectures are, how his books are. It is always in that mood of strong preaching. This is not just Srila Prabhupada. We see that this is how Srimad Bhagavatam also begins. Bhagavatam begins when the Saunakadi Rishis, they were intent on hearing about Srimad Bhagavatam. They said that Prayan Alpai Sabya Kalavasmin Yuge Janaha Manda Sumadamadayo Manda Bhagya Upadrataka, that the people in Kali Yuga, they are very dull, they are lazy, they are prone to finding faults, they are unfortunate. They just list the bad qualities, and then they are asking, okay, what's the solution? Oh, the Bhagavad Gita also begins like that. Krishna, he starts his preaching to Arjuna by calling Arjuna an uncivilized person. Anarya Jashtam Aisvargim Akirtikaram Arjuna. So Krishna is saying that you are speaking as if a very cultured person, but actually you are an ignorant fool. So this is how preaching begins. And the same thing we see in the 5th chapter of first canto Bhagavatam, that Narada is heavily chastised by, Vyasadeva is heavily chastised by Narada. In fact, Narada sarcastically is speaking to Vedavyas, saying that Muni Varyana Kirtitaha. This is Bhavatanu Didaprayam Muni Varyana Kirtitaha. He says that you are a great Muni, but then Natata Vasudevasya. He is saying that you are a great personality, but what have you written? He says that you have not spoken about the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Particularly, Narada is saying that you did not speak about Krishna, that's why he is chastising us. But now we are presenting some books before presenting Srila Prabhupada's book. And that some books, definitely we see that there is no mention of Krishna or about the spiritual master, the relationship between guru, disciple, how one should surrender to Krishna, guru, and then one should surrender to, these things are not all there. So this is a very precarious situation that we are trying to present ours and then stop presenting Srila Prabhupada's books. So one other observation we see in the 5th chapter is that Vedavyas, he did not write any ordinary book. Vedavyas, he wrote all the Rig, Yajur, Sam, Athara Vedas, which are really wonderful. And then he wrote Itihasas, Mahabharata and Ramayana. He wrote so many books on religiosity. But still we see that Vedavyas was chastised by Narada. At one point in time, Srila Prabhupada has given lectures for each and every verse that Narada has chastised Vyasadeva. There Srila Prabhupada says that Mahabharata is such a wonderful literature. If somebody reads Mahabharata, they know that this is such an extensive, vast literature with so many intricate meanings. And that Mahabharata is written by Vedavyas, but still Narada was condemning Vedavyas by writing Mahabharata. Mahabharata, we know this is a literature, it speaks about the glories of Pandavas and also Bhagavad Gita is present in it. But still Srila Prabhupada says that even though you presented a great literature as Mahabharata, you see that there is so much of sociology in it, politics in it, there is so much of diplomacy in it, anthropology in it, so many other things are also present in it. So Prabhupada, Narada is directly condemning Vyasadeva that you wrote Mahabharata, but still see the result. We see that Mahabharata is attractive to many people. Mahabharata is no ordinary literature, we know, but Mahabharata is practically known to everybody. Even now when we go out for book distribution, people ask us, do you have Mahabharata? Do you have Mahabharata? So Vedavyas was very successful in his preaching, in his bridge preaching, that he attracted everybody to reading Mahabharata. He was very successful in it. But if you go and speak about Srimad Bhagavatam, definitely nobody is interested into taking Bhagavatam. Because Srimad Bhagavatam is no ordinary book. Srimad Bhagavatam is Nirmat Saranam Satam. It's for the Paramahamsas. But on the contrary, when there is a bridge preaching, definitely he will be successful. That already the success was felt by Vedavyas. He was very successful in his bridge preaching, that now Mahabharata is very popular. But still he could see that this is causing him despondency. That we see in Bhagavad Gita also, that even if there is such even the opponent party, even though he may ask for such so-called bridge preaching. See, we see in the case of book distribution that when we go and approach people, they say that I am also a dharmic person, I am also a devotee. Just like Arjuna, he was saying, see, I am presenting the list of things which is very good by nature. So it is seen that in one way some getting some nice in front of others seems to be good. But in spite of such behaving in such nice mannerism, still there is always despondency. We see that Arjuna, though he was always presenting some nice arguments, he was despondent. And we see that Vyasadeva, he wrote all the Vedas and also Mahabharata, but still he was despondent. And we can also see how in the life of Srila Prabhupada himself, that when he was approaching his spiritual master was also, we know how strongly he was preaching, how Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur attracted Srila Prabhupada by strong preaching. We know how Srila Prabhupada, he was not reluctant to meet any guru. When Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur came to Calcutta, one of the friends of Srila Prabhupada, he took Srila Prabhupada by hand to meet the Guru, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. Srila Prabhupada, even that time, he was not reluctant to meet the Guru, because he has seen so many sadhus. They will speak, they will pose themselves as devotees of Krishna, but then they were not good in character, and also they were not good in instructions also. So Srila Prabhupada thought that this Guru also will be one of such sadhus. So when Srila Prabhupada, he went and met his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, for the first time, he was also speaking, he was also, not that he was in an arrogant way, he was challenging Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, but his question seemed to be a challenge. That when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur saw Abhay Charan the Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada in his very young age, immediately he said that you are all young English speaking people, why don't you preach the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the English speaking world? Then that time Srila Prabhupada, the very young personality, immediately objected to this point by saying that how can we do that? Prabhupada was a Gandhian that time. He was having his value system. How Arjuna was having his own value system to not fight. So similarly, Srila Prabhupada, he was also following some Gandhian thought. He said that no, we are a dependent nation. How is it possible for us to preach now? Let us first get freedom. Then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur immediately, he preached strongly to Srila Prabhupada that Krishna consciousness cannot wait for any situation. Anybody rule, this rule or that rule, that doesn't matter. Krishna consciousness cannot wait for any change, any mundane change. This is most urgent thing. And Srila Prabhupada was very happy. In fact, Prabhupada says that I was defeated by my spiritual master. Nobody ever defeated in my life, but I was defeated by my spiritual master. But we see that this is a victory for Srila Prabhupada, this is a victory for the whole parampara. That when there is strong preaching, then we see the effect is more successful. And when there is bridge preaching, we see that now Mahabharata is famous all over India, but then we see that there are no devotees. Mahabharata was not, of course, there is something in Mahabharata like Bhagavad Gita and then Vishnu Sahasranam. But by the way of bridge preaching by Vyasadeva, though he was so successful in making his plans to be widespread, and he also got customers for his successful bridge preaching, but still we see that the end result of making pure devotees did not happen by producing literature called Mahabharata. And for that, there was also despondency in Vyasadeva. And Srila Prabhupada, he was having this, of course, this is for our Leela that he has taken some philosophy of Gandhian, but still there was despondency. And then Srila Prabhupada, after hearing from his own guru, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, he was so happy. He was convinced. Then he gave up all his other things, and then how he took up in a full swing pure devotional service. Like that, when that pure devotional service is taken, then the end result is there. Just like we see that how Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur preached strongly, we got Srila Prabhupada. And how Srila Prabhupada preached strongly, we have such a beautiful movement. It is because of Srila Prabhupada's strong preaching that all the success in the world we are seeing now. And also it is because of the strong preaching by Narada that we got Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam we obtained just by the strong preaching of Narada. Otherwise, we got only Mahabharata or the other the Vedic literatures, which only causes despondency. But by strong preaching, we got Srimad Bhagavatam. By strong preaching, we got Srila Prabhupada, and then by strong preaching only we have Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. They are all strong preachers, and then their goal was to, just like Srila Prabhupada, he did everything for the pleasure of his spiritual master. In fact, he always attested his success to the spiritual master. So when that strong preaching is done, then the spiritual master is pleased. Otherwise, what's the point? Just like we see that only after writing Srimad Bhagavatam, Vyasadeva became pleased. Then he could see that because he now followed the instruction of his Guru Narada, he became successful. He became pleased. When we don't please the spiritual master, we can't be happy. And when the spiritual master is not pleased, then obviously it is expected that there will be always despondency. So we have a list of powerful spiritual masters in the parampara. They are all like lions. And when we follow their style of strong preaching, then our preaching becomes successful, and then we really become happy. Just how Vyasadeva, he became happy after writing Srimad Bhagavatam. In fact, he wrote all the Vedic literatures for all the conditioned souls, but Narada was chastising him so heavily that Yadvachas chitrapadam hareresho jagat pavitram praganita karishit tad vayasam tirtam ushanti manasa. Vedavyas is condemned by Narada by saying that whatever you wrote only for the crow-like men. This is heavy chastisement by Narada, that whatever you wrote, it's all meant for crow-like people. For crow-like people only you wrote all these, this is a Vedic literature, that Vedavyas did not write anything ordinary. Though our so-called bridge preachers are writing so many ordinary books, but Vedavyas was not writing such ordinary books. He was also writing great literatures only. But Narada, he was saying that you wrote books and those books are for crow-like men. But Vedavyas, he took the instructions, this chastisement of Narada to his heart, and then he completely reformed himself by meditating on the Supreme Lord and presented Srimad Bhagavatam. He was happy. Finally, I presented a book for the Paramahamsas. Hamsa Niraman. Then the next line comes. Those who are swan-like people, they will take shelter only in the glorification of the Lord. So finally, Vyasadeva could please his spiritual master Narada by presenting a literature for the Paramahamsas, which is Srimad Bhagavatam. Dharma Projita Kaitava Trap Paramo Nirmat Saranam Satam. Finally, he could give one literature which is for the pleasure of the Paramahamsas, which is Srimad Bhagavatam. And finally, after presenting Srimad Bhagavatam, by which his spiritual master was pleased, he became pleased. So that is the idea, that we have to please our spiritual master. This is very important. If we don't please our spiritual master, then we can't be happy. So now coming to the person of Īśvara Purī, how Īśvara Purī, he pleased his spiritual master, and there was another disciple of Madhendra Purī called Ramachandra Purī, how he displeased his spiritual master. So I am reading this particular pastime from the Antilila of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, how Madhendra Purī, he had two disciples, one disciple pleased his spiritual master and he attained success, and how there was another disciple who displeased his spiritual master and then he fell down. So this is in the 8th chapter, Ramachandra Purī criticized the Lord. So I am just reading the translation alone, so that I just finish the lecture in time. So Madhendra Purī was chanting the holy name of Krishna, and sometimes he would cry, "Oh my Lord, I did not get shelter at Mathura." Next verse. Then Ramachandra Purī was so foolish that he fearlessly dared to instruct his spiritual master. This is what actually happening. When we do some bridge preaching, we think that we are better than our spiritual master, and then now we are ready to advise our spiritual master that our preaching is successful. That's what Ramachandra Purī did. He thought that he is expert in advising his spiritual master, which a disciple is supposed not to do. But then now Ramachandra Purī is now taking a very foolish step of advising his spiritual master, who is the great Madhendra Purī. So I am continuing. Ramachandra Purī says, "If you are in full transcendental bliss," he said, "you should now remember only Brahman. Why are you crying?" Hearing this instruction, Madhendra Purī, greatly angry, rebuked him by saying, "Get out, you sinful rascal." This is what will happen if you are not going to follow the instruction of Srila Prabhupada, who strongly preached, who wanted all his disciples to strongly preach. Then this is what is going to happen. that the spiritual master is going to reject the disciple. Now further, O my Lord Krishna, I could not reach you, nor could I reach your abode, Mathura. I am dying in my unhappiness, and now this rascal has come to give me more pain. Don't show your face to me. Go anywhere else you like. If I die seeing your face, I shall not achieve the destination of my life. I am dying without achieving the shelter of Krishna, and therefore I am greatly unhappy. Now this condemned foolish rascal has come to instruct me about Brahman. We have seen in the life of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur that somehow at the end of his life, his disciples were fighting, and then he gave the divine instruction to Srila Prabhupada that if you ever have money, print books. So like that, we should know how to please the spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada, he pleased the spiritual master. And now we see that how Ramachandra Purī, because of his bold step in advising his spiritual master, he displeased. But on the contrary, his disciple Īśvara Purī pleased him. Ramachandra Purī was thus denounced by Madhendra Purī. Due to his offense, gradually material desire appeared within him. One who is attached to dry speculative knowledge has no relationship with Krishna. His occupation is criticizing Vaishnavas. Thus, he is situated in criticism. Here in the purport, Srila Prabhupada, he makes a statement that when one offends a pure devotee of the Lord, he takes up the position of an impersonalist. That one becomes an impersonalist by offending a pure Vaishnava. So, this is very worse. We know that Kaivalyam Narakayate, that this impersonal liberation is hell for the devotees. And if somebody offends a pure Vaishnava, then he attains that position of becoming an impersonalist and attain the hellish planets. So, okay, here. Īśvara Purī, the spiritual master of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, performed service to Madhendra Purī, cleaning up his stool and urine with his own hand. Īśvara Purī was always chanting the holy name and pastimes of Lord Krishna for Madhendra Purī to hear. In this way, he helped Madhendra Purī remember the holy name and pastimes of Lord Krishna at the time of death. Pleased with Īśvara Purī, Madhendra Purī embraced him and gave him the benediction that he would be a great devotee and lover of Krishna. Thus, Īśvara Purī became like an ocean of ecstatic love for Krishna, whereas Ramachandra Purī became a dry speculator and a critic of everyone else. Īśvara Purī received the blessing of Madhendra Purī, whereas Ramachandra Purī received a rebuke from him. Therefore, these two persons, Īśvara Purī and Ramachandra Purī, are examples of the objects of a great personality's benediction and punishment. Madhendra Purī instructed the entire world by presenting these two examples. Yeah. So this is a lesson we hear from hearing about Īśvara Purī, how he pleased his spiritual master, that how he was able to obtain the mercy of his spiritual master Madhendra Purī, and by that way he attained Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's association. In fact, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very pleased to have Sri Īśvara Purī as his spiritual master. Yeah, so this we learn from the life of Sri Īśvara Purī, that we should please the spiritual master. That should be our aim, that should be our goal. Hare Krishna. So I stop here. So any questions and comments? Sri Īśvara Purī ki jai, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Madhendra Purī ki jai.